Dan Blocker wasn't born into fame. He came into the world in DeKalb, Texas, on December 10, 1928, a baby so large that the doctor said he was the biggest newborn ever delivered in Bowie County, weighing over 14 pounds. But from that first day, his size was matched by something even greater, his heart. Growing up in a small Texas town, Dan learned the values of hard work, honesty, and humility. His parents, Ora and Mary Blocker, ran a simple grocery store, and they taught him that respect and kindness mattered more than money or power. It was a lesson he carried for life. At school, Dan was both popular and gentle. Teachers admired his polite nature, and classmates often said he was the kind of person who would stand up for anyone being bullied. Even as a boy, he had a sense of justice and empathy that made people trust him. When he went to Hardin-Simmons University, he didn't dream of acting. He studied English and drama, with plans to become a teacher. His love for communication and helping others guided him toward the classroom, not the stage. But destiny had a different plan waiting. Dan's life took a pause when he served in the Korean War. He wasn't a man who liked violence, but he did his duty with courage and discipline. Those years changed him. He saw the pain of war, the fragility of life, and it deepened his compassion for people. After returning from service, he met a woman who would become his lifelong partner, Dolphia Lee Parker. They met at university, and their bond was instant. She wasn't drawn to his fame or size but to his sincerity and humor. They married in 1952, and together they began building the kind of life Dan always dreamed of, quiet, family-oriented, and filled with love. He began teaching again, working as a high school drama teacher. His students adored him. They said he made them believe in themselves, that he saw potential where others didn't. Ironically, it was his students who convinced him to try acting professionally. They told him he had a natural presence that couldn't be taught. Taking their advice, Dan began auditioning in Hollywood. The road wasn't easy. Casting directors didn't know what to do with a man of his size. But soon, he started landing small roles in westerns like Gunsmoke, The Rifleman, and Cheyenne. His calm strength and natural charm caught the attention of producers everywhere. In 1959, everything changed. Dan was cast as Eric Haas Cartwright in NBC's Bonanza. It became one of the most successful shows in television history, and Haas became its heart. Haas wasn't just a cowboy, he was a symbol of goodness in a harsh world. Dan played him with humor, kindness, and sincerity. Audiences fell in love with his warmth. Every smile, every line he spoke carried an honesty that came straight from his real personality. At home, Dan was even more genuine. Fame never touched his soul. While other stars were chasing parties and attention, Dan preferred spending time with his family. He and Dolphia had 4 children, David, Dirk, Deborah, and Dana. Their home was filled with laughter, simple meals, and the sound of children playing. He would often cook for his family and even his co-stars. His friends said he made a famous Texas-style chili that no one could resist. He loved sharing food and stories, that was his idea of happiness. But success came with pressure. The long hours of filming Bonanza were draining. He often worked 14-hour days, and though he rarely complained, it began to affect his health. He was a big man, and the physical strain was constant. Dan remained humble, donating to schools, hospitals, and charities quietly. He helped struggling actors find work and offered financial aid to friends without ever mentioning it publicly. To him, kindness wasn't for attention, it was simply who he was. Then came tragedy. In May 1972, Dan went into the hospital for a routine gallbladder surgery. He was only 43 and expected to recover in a few days. But unexpected complications during surgery caused a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that took his life within moments. The shock rippled across America. Bonanza fans, castmates, and even those who'd never met him felt a deep loss. Hollywood stood still. The gentle giant, the heart of the Cartwright family, was gone. His co-stars were devastated. Lorne Greene, who played Ben Cartwright, said it felt as though he had lost a son. Michael Landon, who played Little Joe, said he couldn't walk onto the set without hearing Dan's laughter in his mind. They all knew the show would never be the same. At home, Dolphia and the children were shattered. Their world collapsed overnight. The man who made everything steady and warm was suddenly gone. The children, still young, couldn't understand why the world had taken their father away. Dan was buried in his hometown of DeKalb, Texas, where hundreds gathered to say goodbye. The town mourned its most beloved son. His grave was simple, just as he would have wanted. After his death, Dolphia withdrew from public life. She refused interviews and avoided the spotlight. She wanted to raise her children in peace, away from the noise of Hollywood. The family's home became a place of quiet remembrance, filled with his photographs, his scripts, and his personal items that no one had the heart to move. The Bonanza team tried to continue, but the magic was gone. After Dan's passing, the show struggled emotionally and creatively. A year later, it was cancelled. Many said it was because Bonanza without Haas wasn't Bonanza at all. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, the legend of Dan Blocker only grew stronger. People didn't just remember his acting, they remembered his kindness, his laughter, and his rare humility in a world obsessed with fame. And in that quiet house he once filled with joy, time seemed to stand still. It became more than a home, it became a shrine to a man who left too soon. After Dan's death, his wife Dolphia couldn't bear to live in their family home anymore. The rooms were filled with his presence, the chair where he used to read, the table where the family ate together, the kitchen where his laughter once rang out. Every wall whispered his name. She and the children eventually moved away, but the house remained. It was left as it was, untouched for years. Inside were his books, his favorite hats, his boots, and personal notes he had written. It became frozen in time, as if waiting for him to return. Neighbors said the house grew quiet and somber. Curtains stayed drawn, and the garden that Dan once tended began to grow wild. The sound of children playing and the smell of his home-cooked meals disappeared. The house slowly became a ghost of its past, a physical reflection of grief and love. Visitors who passed by described an eerie stillness. Some said they could feel something comforting in the air, as if the spirit of Dan Blocker never really left. Fans who later discovered where he lived would stop by, leaving flowers or notes on the fence, thanking him for the happiness he gave them. For Dolphia, her husband's memory was sacred. She never remarried. Friends said she lived the rest of her life with quiet strength, raising her 4 children to carry his values, kindness, honesty, and humility. She refused to sell his belongings or the home, believing it still held a piece of his soul. Dan's sons followed different paths. Dirk Blocker, inspired by his father, became an actor. He appeared in many TV shows and films, including Brooklyn Nine-Nine, earning respect not because of his father's name, but for his own talent and gentle character. Dirk often spoke about his father in interviews, saying, "He taught me that kindness is the highest form of strength." David Blocker, his older son, chose a path behind the camera. He became a producer, known for his steady professionalism and calm personality, traits that clearly came from his father. Dan's daughters, Deborah and Dana, lived quiet lives away from the spotlight. They rarely spoke publicly, preferring to keep their father's memory private. Those who knew them said they carried the same warmth and thoughtfulness that defined their parents. Over time, the family home aged. Paint peeled from the walls, the roof sagged slightly, and the once bright windows became clouded with dust. Yet the home still stood strong, a symbol of the love that once filled it. In the early 2000s, photos of the property began circulating online. Fans were heartbroken to see the house in decay, but many felt it was poetic. Time had taken its toll, yet the memory of Dan still seemed alive there. Some even said the place felt peaceful, not haunted but sacred. The Blocker family never turned it into a museum or tried to profit from his legacy. They kept it as a private reminder of who he was. For them, Dan wasn't a TV star, he was the man who made them feel safe, the man who always had time for a bedtime story no matter how long his day had been. Hollywood moved on, as it always does, but it never forgot Dan Blocker. His co-stars carried his spirit with them for the rest of their lives. Michael Landon would later say, "Dan made us believe in good people." Lorne Greene kept a framed photo of him in his dressing room until his own death. Even today, Bonanza reruns continue to bring him back to life. New generations still discover Haas and fall in love with his humor and heart. Through that character, Dan continues to teach kindness to people who were born long after he was gone. His abandoned home may now stand quiet, but it's not empty. It's filled with memories, of a husband's love, a father's laughter, and a man whose goodness was too rare to fade.